Hi, everybody. It's Julia, your trusted travel expert, helping you find that je ne sais quoi wherever you are in the world. And today I want to give you a kind of some of the pros and cons to renting a villa or a house for your family vacation. I know that's becoming a really popular option, or definitely an alternative to some of the more typical summer vacations you're planning because of the risks of COVID. And so but renting a house is a little bit different of a vacation. And so I wanted to give you a few things to think about. So here are a few pros and cons. So obviously the first pro is that it's just you and your family and you can do whatever you want. Often you're going to have a pool. And so it can be a super relaxing experience. Usually villas are going to be for rent in almost always beautiful locations. But they're also, even though they're out in the countryside almost always, they're close by to things that you would want to see, especially if we're talking about Europe. But also, islands, a lot of the different Caribbean islands have private homes and villas that you can rent. And so, you would obviously have access to water sports and all that. But the cons to that, so yay, it's just you and you can do whatever you want. But one of the cons that can come up, like my mom said it, I don't want to have to cook and clean on my vacation. And so you can always, of course, have a chef. And there are a lot of villas that do have, chefs that are full time with them. But sometimes that can get really expensive. But I also kind of like sometimes not having to go out to eat to the hotel restaurant or, resort restaurants, and just be sort of en famille. You can be a lot more casual. And, especially if you're in a foreign country, going grocery shopping, I think can be super fun. So, there are ways around that, especially if you're willing to pay. So that's sort of just something to think about more than a pro and a con. But if we're really looking at pros and cons, one of the pros, like I was just saying, since it's just you, it's very private. It's very exclusive. That's especially good in these coronavirus times because you sort of can control your environment as far as who comes in and how much exposure the people that you have in there. Obviously the cleaning standards are going to be, especially for a managed home that I would recommend to you, are going to be increased and really high standard. So that's a pro, but a con to that, which sort of goes back into what I was just talking about with the chef, is that you are, out there in the house by yourself. Like there's not a hotel, concierge or front desk downstairs to call. There's no on-site restaurant. You are sort of on your own. So the service levels, no matter how fabulous the villa is, are gonna just be a little bit different, than what you experience at a regular hotel or resort stay. Another pro, though, is that it is often, especially once you get bigger than, a family of four, it's probably going to be a better value. And I talked about this when I was talking about, apartment stays, in big cities, but especially a villa. Like, I had a multi-generation family and they were 17 people. Now, getting hotel rooms for 17 people, that's a lot. And if you have 17 people, they have 3 grown kids and all their kids have kids and the grandparents wanted to go, it's so much better. You have so much more space when you have a house or a villa to spread out and separate from each other, right? Because sometimes you need a little separation. The kids go down the stairs to the basement and the parents enjoy the back deck, that kind of thing. You just have a little bit more space to commingle and enjoy each other. But the con to that pro, that value that you get in that more space for the price, is that there is more risks. Like, first of all, the deposits are almost always non-refundable, and the cancellation terms are usually very strict, extremely strict, which that's another thing to take into account with sort of the travel industry or the, regulations with crossing borders and stuff like that being a little up in the air. But the worst thing, those you can kind of mitigate with travel insurance, but the scariest thing about renting a house, and this does change depending on what vehicle you rent through, is the fact that the owner can decide that they want to use the house and cancel on you, a week before you leave. Another thing, I was on a webinar about this today because it is such a popular option right now. Another thing is, you can rent it for the week that you have it, But if the owner, is looking at their inventory, obviously they want to fill the house, and they get a request for a month that overlaps one of your weeks, they may bump you in favor of the month rental. So, again, the places I would recommend, or the companies that I work with to provide villas, they, limit that, and that isn't that often or that common. But it is a risk that you run when you rent a house. And I will say that, when you work with me, I'm working with reputable companies that manage villa properties, they're vetted, all that good stuff. Listing sites like Airbnb and VRBO, they are just a listing site. So if you do have a last minute cancellation from one of those sites from the owner, or for whatever reason, they don't really step in and negotiate on your behalf, or help you out at all. They are really just websites providing a place to list the home. So if you book through or if you use one of the companies that I recommend, there's at least a layer of service in between that. If the owner does decide that they want the house that week or whatever, the company has an inventory of villas. They can, offer to upgrade you or find a comparable villa. And, obviously I would be advocating on your behalf, and I have, chains of superiority to go up to help, help you out. I'm your advocate. That's why you work with me. So that's one of the value issues. But then the third major issue is, obviously a pro is that these villas or houses are super unique. And again, like I said, they're usually super beautiful. They may have amazing views, cool pools, different setups. It's not a cookie cutter hotel, which is really great. You obviously probably will have very culturally relevant, houses that fit their environments. Which can be a really big pro, but it can also be a little bit of a con, or maybe not so much of a con, but just something that you have to be aware of. Like air conditioning may not be standard in, especially like Europe. I think most of them, they might be, but maybe not. There might be unexpected stairs that you didn't expect, or, wonky room configurations and weird different bathroom setups that you're not used to. The biggest challenge with this is when things kind of go wrong. Like I said at the beginning, since you don't have the hotel service or the resort service on site usually, if the Wi-Fi doesn't work, or if your hot water goes out, which has happened to me, or, there's a plumbing issue, or, any kind of electrical, the oven stops working, it goes on the fritz, yes, again, if you work with me and work with a reputable company, they'll be able to get somebody out to you, but it's probably not going to be, that night if you're cooking dinner or something like that. It may be the next day, or, in the afternoon or something like that. So, that uniqueness and that cultural significance that you get is a bit of a trade-off for some of the ease and convenience of a hotel. Now, one thing that you can avoid pretty much all of these cons is if you choose a villa or a multi-unit condo kind of situation that's attached to or part of a resort. This is, really common in the Caribbean, but I can think of some examples in Europe as well, where, maybe it's an old farmhouse where you can go and have a meal, and there maybe are some standard rooms in that farmhouse, but then they have other, little chalets or villas or little, 2 or 3 bedroom apartments on the grounds. And so you still have that service of having someone there to call if there's a problem, but you still get the benefits of the privacy and your own kind of space. So I hope that gives you some things to think about. I'm super excited because I think I convinced my family to do a villa vacation next summer, and I'm really excited about it. I'm ready to mitigate these cons, and let me know if you are, and I'd be happy to help you find the perfect house for your family. That's it for this week, and I'll talk to you next week.